I'm Captain Chuck Dyer, Negotiation Support Team Coordinator. Today I'm joined by Captain Scott Stratton and Captain Scott Larsen to give you another negotiations update. Welcome, guys. Glad you're here.
Thanks.
Scott, last time we made one of these videos, you characterized our negotiations as approaching the end of the beginning. In the recent negotiations, the company placed the final section in play that they were putting on the table. And I guess now the guys would probably be interested to know how you characterize negotiations now.
Well, I think now, as opposed to the end of the beginning, we're at the beginning of the end. Now it's time that we move forward and get the contract FedEx pilots affirmed.
So if we're at the beginning of the end, does that mean we're nearing the completion of negotiations?
Well, Chuck, as you know, we control just one part of that equation. And right now we need is the other part of the equation, which is the FedEx side, to move productively forward.
Scott Larsen, have all the sections of the contract scheduled to be opened been presented now?
Yes, Chuck. At this point, everything that was planned to be open has been opened and presented. Everything also, with two exceptions, has been countered from their initial proposal. Those two exceptions are scope and vacation.
Scott, can you tell me what sections have been passed since our last video?
Sure, Chuck. Since our last video in August, we've passed deadheading, jury duty service, leaves of absence, and insurance. The company, in kind, has passed relocation expenses and retirement.
What can you tell me about the company's opening position in retirement?
The opening position in retirement by the company, quite frankly, doesn't contain anything for anybody of substance that's on the master seniority list today.
What about the health insurance proposal? What can you tell us about their proposal there?
We countered the health insurance proposal at the last session. The company had opened this section back in the springtime, and their opening position was a very high deductible consumer-driven health plan, very similar to what they've imposed on the rest of the employees at FedEx. It erodes our benefit, increases our deductible, and it's not really something that we're interested in. And it's based on a supposition of what potentially may remain or survive in the Affordable Health Care Act. Our benefits at FedEx are good, and we are interested in maintaining those benefits. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that health care is a big issue nationally and at FedEx. And we'll probably end up paying more for our benefit, but we want to keep the good benefits that we do have.
What I'm hearing you say is that we believe we can maintain our current level of benefits in health care.
Absolutely. There's no reason to water down or wholesale change our benefits. The Affordable Health Care Act, for us to get into the excise or Cadillac tax, doesn't come into play until 2018. And we'll have two congressional elections and one presidential election prior to that time frame. So there's no reason for us to play the what-ifs of what's going to survive and what's not going to survive as law. We need to negotiate on what is factually happening right now and in the near future.
Okay, fair enough, Scott. Recently, the company's engaged in an initiative to sell PBS to our pilots. This is certainly a change in the way things have been conducted over the last few years. What can you tell me about the company's attempts to sell PBS?
We've been consistent in our message since the company rolled PBS across the table in October of 2012. We've been consistent in the message that PBS for regular lines will not ratify at FedEx. We've stated it time and time again, both to the company and to the membership. It's a trust-based system that does not work at FedEx. Our system form, there's all sorts of reasons why it doesn't, but at its core, it will not ratify because the membership does not support any kind of PBS system for our regular lines.
Scott Stratton, on this PBS issue, I mean, aside from at the negotiating table, have you made attempts to get this message through to management?
Oh, absolutely, at every level. We've made it clear that the trust needed for a PBS system just doesn't exist here at Federal Express at this time. There's been a lot of reasons discussed as why, but the message is clear. Secondly, the pilots have made it very clear that they want contract language that doesn't have intent risk. And adding tremendous amounts of that, which a PBS system would do throughout our contract, is also unacceptable to our pilots. As is the fact that after 24 months of interim talks, the introduction of PBS as we enter Section 6 is very problematic. Scott's team has said that it would take, 18 to 24 months to negotiate PBS, even if we didn't have these other challenges with trust. And even then, there would be intent problems. That's an unacceptable timeline to our pilots, and we've delivered that message in a very clear manner to FedEx management.
Okay, fair enough. Scott, can you tell me if any airline of our stature has agreed to PBS and anything other than bankruptcy or concessionary bargaining?
The only one, Chuck, has been Northwest, and that's just a statement on really how bad their scheduling was prior to PBS. And the key to Northwest's success with a PBS system was that the corporation gave the keys to the association to run PBS. And that's not something that would happen here.
Scott Stratton, all the sections now apparently are in play in this negotiation. Can you share any thoughts about the veracity of the company's proposals at this point?
Companies tend to follow certain patterns in negotiations and repeat them, and we've seen that here at FedEx as well. If you go back to the 2006 contract, their proposals I would characterize as opening proposals were low and to the left. What many, and certainly what we'd view as concessionary. We did not see that in the 2010-11 talks because of the more limited scope, but we're seeing that again. We saw that in the 767 talks, and now we've seen it here, and I would characterize them as that. That being said, back to your earlier question, I think we're now at the beginning of the end, and it's time for that to change.
Okay, if management's proposals and our proposals at this point seem to be pretty far apart. So with that being said, what comes next?
Well, with that characterization, where we're at the beginning of the end, it's now time to move productively towards conclusion. And what that requires, as I mentioned earlier, is that we only control a half of that equation. And right now it's time for FedEx to step up with a checkbook and let's close this deal.
Wrapping this up, can you tell our guys when the next joint council meeting will be?
Yeah, it's in I believe the third week of October, and it's important. You know, we talk often about what FedEx pilots can do. Stay informed, stay engaged. Watching this video is part of it, but also it's sometimes what unity means, and unity is important. Unity provides the opportunities for Scott's team at the negotiating table, and unity is what determines the end game result. And right now, as far as the LEC and the Joint Council meeting goes, is that sometimes unity means showing up.
Fair enough. Scott Larsen, any final words?
Chuck, we're here to negotiate. We're here to negotiate the deal that our pilots have earned and our pilots deserve. We're ready to make the deal that's right for our pilots. The company has to come to the table and take PBS off the table.
Fair enough. Scott Stratton, the last word's yours.
Sure. I think something that's been made clear recently, and it's important at every negotiation, and that is that my negotiating committee speaks for me. There's only two teams in negotiations. We're the Alpha team, and we're ready to stand up right now and get that deal.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot for stopping by today. And to all you guys out there, remember, stay informed, stay engaged.